Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to address something that I always get asked. If I'm in front of someone during a lunchtime or a meal, any food kind of scenario. And I was kind of putting off making this video, not because I'm not very passionate and proud about veganism, I am. But I'm a firm believer that I don't have the power to change anyone's beliefs if they're not already in that kind of frame of mind. And I definitely don't think I own any kind of powers that can change people, which is grand. So if you don't already know, you're going to know by the title anyway. I'm a vegan. I've been vegetarian for 13 years and I've been vegan for the last two going on 3 years. Sometime around like the end of 2015 I think. And I'm not making this video to push my beliefs on anyone else. I'm making this video because I always get asked why I'm a vegan. And I just think more people need to know about it because there is so much that I didn't know about veganism. Like I remember when I was vegetarian, someone told me that their friend was a vegan and I was like, that's so pointless, why would you do that? There was actually a time in my life where I wanted to be a dairy farmer because I was like, wouldn't it be so cute to have like all your cows and like they can just be milked happily and the chickens can just run around and make eggs and then make a living out of that, and it's, you know, it's fantastic. So I was very naive and I'm sure loads of people are. The fact of the matter is that there's so much hidden from the public because obviously big corporations want to make loads of money and blah blah blah. And if you're watching this and you're not a vegan and you have no intentions of becoming vegan, you could still learn something from this video, so I do recommend sticking around and watching it. I just got tea on my hand. So I became a vegan for ethical reasons. Some people become vegan for health reasons and some people become vegan for the environment. Others just decide that they don't like the taste, whatever. I firstly became vegan because of ethics. But now that I'm a vegan for the last couple of years, I've really grown to appreciate the impact on environment and the impact on my health as well. So I'm going to start with ethics. All of us know that if you eat meat or fish that they have to die for you to eat that meal. So people understand vegetarianism very easily. They're like, okay, you don't want to eat anything that's dead. But up until I did my research on the dairy industry in 2015, I had no idea that there was any cruelty got to do with producing dairy or eggs. No clue. I drank milk every single day. My favourite dinner was pizza, cheese toasties, and eggs were like a staple in my diet. But after my research I was just completely horrified. In the future, hopefully, if I become pregnant, my breasts will produce milk so that I can feed my little baba. So similarly, cows are mammals. They need to be pregnant so that they can lactate, so they can produce milk to feed their young. And because of the millions and millions of people who are addicted to cheese and milk, the industry needs a lot of pregnant cows. And they need these cows to be pregnant very, very often so that they can get their maximum profit. Once a female cow enters a dairy farm, she's very, very quickly made pregnant. And not in the way that a lot of you might think, like the natural way of someone to get pregnant. This cow is prematurely raped by a machine that is literally called a rape rack, which artificially inseminates the female cow, which means that like bull semen is already in this machine and it's then inserted into the cow. So this process will be repeated until the cow is then made pregnant so that she can give birth and begin to lactate. When she does give birth, the baby is very, very quickly taken away from her because if they stick around, they'll start to drink the milk which humans have decided are for them. And a lot of people don't know this, but cows are really, really maternal, just like us. They really mourn the loss of their child. If you do any bit of research and you look up the process of a cow mourning her children, you can really, really hear the pain in the screams, and it's actually devastating. If you're wondering where the calf goes, they're sent either to go down the same line as their mother, or if they're a male, they're sent to be killed for veal. The mother is then milked to excess to get the most milk as fast as possible, and it's very, very common for cows to get infections in their udders because of the extreme milking from the machinery. So they get pus-filled infections, which they go into your milk. And once she dries out, when the milk all stops, it's back to the rape rack to be artificially inseminated again and have her children robbed from her again and again and again. And this cycle is going to continue for the rest of her life until she finally becomes too weak from the constant pregnancy and abuse that she drops. And the remains of this cow are either fed back to animals or sent to factories for dog food or whatever other use that they can get from her dead body. And the meat industry is no better. Like chickens, for example, they're kept in tiny, tiny little coops, pumped up with growth hormones and antibiotics, make them as fat as possible, which humans eventually get to ingest. Yummy. They have their beaks cut off without anaesthetic so that they don't stab each other to death in these tiny little coops. And they're left in that environment, suffocating, without any quality of life, just for human consumption. Pigs are another thing. The most humane way that humans now have decided to kill pigs is by gassing them in gas chambers, and that's happening every single day. I could go into so much more detail about ethics, to be honest. The research is out there if you want it. There are so many innocent animals who fall victim to this industry, and every single industry has their own cost-effective, detached way of doing it. So if you want to know about a certain animal or you want to learn more about what I've just said, you can do your own research. Now to talk about the environment. In the world right now, because of demand, there's a huge overproduction of cows for dairy and for meat and for veal and all these things. And cows naturally emit methane gas, which is very, very toxic to our environment. And it's contributing to greenhouse gases at like an alarming rate, a really, really alarming rate. When people think of global warming, they think of like old cars, planes, trains, the transport system. The transport system is the reason that we're having all this climate change. But animal agriculture alone contributes more to greenhouse gases than all exhaust from all transportation. Every single one. And people think they're making changes by switching to an electric car. And then you look at water usage. If you shower, we say every day for 7 minutes, you'd use around 5,200 gallons of water per year. Whereas it takes 5,200 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of beef. And lastly, we're going to talk about health. Because everyone always wants to tell me, like, where do you get your protein? Where do you get your iron? I get it from plants. All protein comes from plants originally. All the meat that you're eating come from herbivores who eat these plants, who get the protein from the plants, and then you get the protein from the animal. Whereas I get my protein straight from the source, from the plant. Do you see how that makes sense? If you eat a healthy, balanced, plant-based diet, you're never going to be lacking a nutrient. Since I'm vegan, the only thing I've ever lacked in whenever I've gotten my bloods done was vitamin B12, which a lot of Irish people are actually lacking in anyway because of just how clean the world is right now. Vitamin B12 we used to get from like certain bacteria in our food, but because of like the sanitary world that we live in now, we're not getting that vitamin anymore. Anyway, if you have a Netflix account, I really, really, really recommend watching What the Health. It's a really, really interesting documentary about our diets and how they affect our health. It's been shown that 50 grams of processed meat, that means your rashers, your sausages, your deli meat, increase your chances of getting diabetes by 51%. And similarly, that 50 gram of processed meat, 50 grams now isn't a lot, increases your risk of heart disease by 42%. Processed meat is now listed as a group 1 carcinogenic, which means it's cancerous. And that's been posted by the World Health Organization. Just to put group 1 into perspective, it's in the same category as tobacco and cigarettes. Eggs, we all think eggs are like the healthiest food ever. I lived on about, I'd say 4 eggs a day before I became vegan because I was told it's so healthy and it's great for weight loss. Eggs in the US can now no longer be called a healthy food, nutritious, part of a balanced diet, or anything that portrays it to be a health food, because it's not. Eggs have a really, really high cholesterol content, which is strongly linked to clogging arteries, which lead to stroke, heart attacks and death. In terms of life expectancy, eating eggs are equal to smoking 5 cigarettes a day. And eating dairy for men can increase your risk of prostate cancer by 34%. And it's not even surprising that dairy contributes to the growth of cancer, because when you think about it, cow's milk's whole purpose is to grow a calf into a fully grown cow. And like, why wasn't I told this before? Why was I told growing up that I needed to drink my milk and I needed to eat my meat and that it's good for you? And that's because if you actually did your research, so many of the older studies are sponsored, which means they're funded by McDonald's, by Burger King, by all these different meat and dairy industries. They literally openly admit that these studies are sponsored by these brands who would go out of business if health organisations started telling people that meat and dairy are bad for you. Where new studies have come around and people are starting to see the effects of processed meat and dairy. And people are really, really sick. I could really go on for so much longer on all these topics. Like, each topic could have been a whole video for me, but I just wanted to make it a little bit more simple for people who don't even know what veganism is, or who don't want to hear me ramble for a half an hour. But there's so many resources out there, and I'm going to link some of my favourite ones below, some of the things that helped me become vegan. I really hope you found out some new information in this. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.